Hello, welcome. My name is Stephanie DiPetrillo. I lead the NJTOD project here at Rutgers University. I'm a senior researcher with the Voorhees Transportation Center. As many of you know, I hope, that the njtod.org is a mostly online resource that focuses on the potential for development and redevelopment. I didn't move my slide. Potential for development and redevelopment around New Jersey's transit facilities through discussion of best practices and local problem-solving experiences. If you haven't been to the website, please check us out. The project is made possible through an ongoing partnership between Rutgers VTC and the Transit Friendly Planning Program at New Jersey Transit, led by Megan Massey. Today we're going to continue our TOD in Your Downtown Forum series, which we do in collaboration with Downtown New Jersey. I want to thank our panelists and moderator. All of you are brilliant. I'm so glad you're here. And my colleagues at New Jersey Transit, and of course Downtown New Jersey. And with that, I'm going to turn the lectern over to Courtney. We'll tell you a little bit more about Downtown New Jersey.
Now, I'll keep it quick, but we always have to do our little ad. So for those of you who don't know Downtown New Jersey, we are a statewide education and advocacy organization based in Jersey City, in my house. So we provide a lot of educational programming. So this is just a little bit of we do. We do this 2 times a year with njtod.org, but we also do our own, try to do 2 or 3 in-person educational / networking events, and then we do webinars as well. And then stay tuned, I don't have the big ad, but October 19th, we will be having our conference in Red Bank this year. So yeah, at the Vogel Theater. It's a really cool space, so come out just to see the space. Forget the education part, it's really neat. We also do advocacy. Our big advocacy effort right now, if anybody's not aware, is liquor license reform. So if you want to know more about that, sign on to the Alliance, etc., let me know. You can also go on the website. And then finally, we like to recognize our members, and we are a membership-based organization. So we do awards, quarterly spotlights, etc. So that's just a little bit about Downtown New Jersey. This particular session came about, I think we hear a lot of, how do we fill that vacant space? And we're going to hit it from a couple of angles. So, our downtowns are in the full array of revitalization. Some are just at the beginning, some are fully blossomed, but also still have some difficulties filling their new redevelopment space. So we're going to hit both of the filling your older spaces, filling your newer spaces, and all of that. And we got a great crew of folks, a mix of practitioners and planners and downtown folks and a real estate expert as well. So today we'll have Chris Colley from Topology, Jim Donio from the town of Hamilton, Melissa Hodge from South Orange, Marta Villa from CBRE, and our illustrious moderator who really needs no introduction, Jeff Bueller. I'll hand it over to him. Go, you can just hit the arrow.
Yeah, thanks, Gordon. Yep. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming out today to Rutgers here in New Brunswick. My name is Jeff Bueller. And I'm with the New Jersey Business Action Center at this time. I'm going to put my glasses on because otherwise I can't see anything. All right, so we're here today to talk about how to attract and retain local businesses in your downtown. The panel is going to be doing the humans work on that. We're going to have me do an infomercial / conceptual introduction, which is about 7 minutes, and Courtney is going to keep me honest about that. And then we're going to move to panelist presentations. Then we're going to move to me asking 3 key questions, depending on time, from our panel. And then the panelists will respond to that. And then after that, we're going to have the bulk of the time for your questions for myself or particularly the panelists. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Let me move forward on that. So greetings and thanks, right? So that's me, again, manager of the Municipal and District Revitalization Office at the New Jersey Business Action Center. Some of you may know me because I ran Main Street, New Jersey for 20 years. Some of you may know me because I recreated and ran the Neighborhood Preservation Program for about 4 years. Some of you may know me because I'm conspicuously a user of acronyms and abuser of acronyms, which I'm going to try to limit myself given the 7 minutes today on, but we'll probably hit on a couple of those. In any case, you'll get to know the panel directly in the panel itself, but you'll also have their bios in your little handout brochure thing as well. Yeah, by the way, the mural behind me is by Leon Rainbow. He's an amazing Trenton murals. So I bring greetings from Tahisha Wei, who is the Secretary of State at the Department of State. She's a great supporter of the Business Action Center and ultimately the Municipal and District Revitalization Office. So greetings from the Secretary, and also greetings from Melanie Willoughby, who's the amazing Executive Director of the Business Action Center, and relevant today is the person who actually created the office that I run in the Business Action Center. And if you're managing a district, or you're running a business in a district, or you're working with people, small businesses, large businesses in your districts or in your communities, Melanie is absolutely in your corner. So now, this is the interactive part, right? So we're going to have interactive questions, but I like to bring interactions on the front end as well. So it's about the Business Action Center. So BAC works in New Jersey. Our boundaries are the state of New Jersey's boundaries. There's no district limits, there's no municipal limits, there's no county limits. We're everywhere. So, and I'm going to here's some interactions. So when I say something, if it applies to you, raise your hand. This is going to help our panel get to know who you are. So whether your business or town is urban, raise your hand if you're urban, okay? Whether your business town is rural, one, half rural, okay, cool. I guess I'm technically rural. Suburban, okay, that's the majority. Okay, so whether your locals enjoy Taylor ham, anyone? I get a couple Taylor hams, or pork roll. I mean, I suppose there's a vegan alternative, okay, so that gives a sense of where your geography is. Whether your local economy is thriving, okay, small, like mid-sized minority, or diving. Wait, so everyone else is sort of in between thriving and diving? Okay, let me just try another one. I'm going to go off script. All right, so whether you're, and just take this as a model, whether your local economy is lit, or whether it's, well, you know, that's interesting because the word that was used, it has a very instructive acronym, sadly having inverse trajectory. So yeah, so yeah, 100% right on that acronym. Thank you for, I told you I was into acronyms. Okay, so whether your community roots for the New York Giants, okay, not crazy. The Eagles. I'm sort of an Eagle guy. Okay, the Jets. Oh, shockingly. So for those Jets fans, the white dot around Florham Park, that's the lean Jets area, just to be clear. Because you'll see that the other two are pretty much, anyway. So anyway, the point is, BAC is in business for you, and your businesses can benefit from BAC regardless of where you fit on all those slides, right? So BAC is a free and accessible business support ecosystem, I like to call it. It serves as a toolkit to help you reach the goals of today's forum, attracting and retaining local businesses in your downtown, whether or not you have transit, okay? So our offices, and there's some brochures and the usual stuff out on the table if you want to grab. Our offices support and guide businesses through technical assistance, advocacy, and real-time problem solving. There's like a whole chat feature that you can call, like an 800 number. There's, you can email, and we have people who will actually like concierge small business problems, whether it's like getting your business registered, dealing with taxation or treasury or who knows what. We have a team for that. Okay. Also, financial help. We have an export promotion unit that actually not only gives technical assistance to help your businesses learn how to export what they do, because if you can expand your market globally, even to some other country, then your business in New Jersey is going to be that much more successful. And there's actually grants called the STEM grants that go with that. And anyone who wants to talk about that afterwards, I can tell you about that. We also have the Office of State Planning. So we provide planning assistance to municipalities with plan endorsement and all that stuff. We connect the motion picture industry with municipalities with our Great Film Ready program. I was talking with a gentleman from Rahway about that. And we have our Cannabis Training Academy, which is the first in the country, which should be launching this fall. Okay, so then let's talk about my office, right? So M&DR, or that's the acronym again. Well, we help municipalities and districts, right? So we provide support for place-based revitalization to governments and district management entities, usually nonprofits. We also share technical assistance and guidance and best practices. So here's the kicker. You can photo this slide, or I guess Courtney's going to put this up. That's my cell phone number. If you have a district management question, need assistance, if you're a municipality that's doing district management in some way or wants to, text me and we'll be in touch. All right, so setting the table. So there's me preparing for the workshop. So retail that fosters prosperity. So now we're getting to the theme, right? So our districts and the businesses that make them up and that are their backbone, obviously the ones that have transit as anchors, succeed as they maintain and enhance their value. Okay, it's not just about growth. A lot of people think, oh, if we can only grow more businesses, we'll be successful. Growth is part of it, but it's a combination of productivity and fit. And that's what makes prosperity, because you could have a great business doing great work in a town that everybody hates and wants to chase out of town. That's not really ultimately prosperity when you look at it holistically. For a business district or community, prosperity is created with 4 sources of value. So some of you know this, or at least this is my version, right? So economic value, place value, social value, and civic value. So place value is somebody saying, hey, I like this place. You know, is this a place I want to be in? Social value is, do I connect with others? Do I have fun in this place, right? Economic value is, do I want to spend my money or invest in this place? And then civic value is, do I feel proud of this place and aligned to it, right? So those are the questions that we as people ask about any place or district, and ultimately business. So let's talk about these values. So economic value, right? See, thank you for laughing. See, I'll go quicker if you laugh. The economic value is you know, it's like, does this business mix work? I can tell you it was not long-lived. You know, but I mean, it's a real thing up in Warren County, but it doesn't exist anymore. At least that mix doesn't exist, right? So who's managing that business mix, right? You know, are the businesses profitable? Are they making money? Is the property value increasing? Ultimately, are property taxes being generated from it and so forth, right? So economic value, and that's the main focus of today, but it's not just about businesses directly. It's also about the place, right? It's about, you know, the things you can see and touch. You know, it's the horizontal place, the street, and all the things that are part of that streetscape. It's the vertical place, which is the buildings and the street wall, and the various features thereof, right? All the details that make up a district in a physical way that you can literally, tangibly touch and see, that's your place value, okay? Now, social value, right? This is the fun value. Everybody wants this. So here's the NJ Transit Station. I promised that I would at least include one transit station. Here's the NJ Transit Station up there. This is, I think, downtown at sundown, right?
South Orange.
South Orange. You know, South Orange.
South Orange downtown.
Downtown. But at sundown. Or did you give a call?
Undercover Music Fest.
Undercover Music, yes. They've had so many iterations of this. But anyway, it's cool music in the downtown of South Orange at the South Orange train station. Anyway, here's a great example of that, right? But so programming our districts is crucial, and somebody's got to do it. But to increase our social value, we need to make our districts places of organic connection as well. And we don't want to over-program them, because if you set the expectation that there's always an event on a given spot at a given time, 365 days a year, people then expect that, and then poor folks like Melissa here burn out because you cannot run events 365 days a year, right? So you got to be careful about that, and it can also negatively impact the other values. All right, so. Lastly is civic value. So civic value is something obvious, like here in Keyport, investing in rehabilitating the library. It's got a public purpose, it's great, but it's also about the connection between like the local government and the population and the downtown stakeholders or the district stakeholders. So for example, if they won't allow housing downtown, that's going to negatively impact the downtown. That's a policy issue. If they don't allow outdoor dining, that's a policy issue that, for example, you know, can significantly negatively impact the downtown. Does anyone know the City of Austin? Parking. Everyone loves parking, right? City of Austin, May 4th, is a great example of civic value. City of Austin eliminated all parking requirements for all new development hereforth, retroactive to May 4th of this year. Right? That is an investment ultimately in civic value, because the governing body representing the population, the civic part of the community, said, you know what? If we do this, we're going to actually help our economy. We're going to help our quality of life. We're going to help our businesses. And they took that step. And that's like, what is it, the 17th largest city in the country or something like that. So in any case, that's an example of civic value to the extreme. But the point is, you feel good about your community and you feel good about your businesses. So how do we do this? Real quick to wrap up. Last slide, Courtney. So be stakeholder driven. You got to work with the people where they're at, your business owners, your property owners, your residents, your officials, and so forth. make sure you create visible and tangible change, because it's one thing to plan and put a plan on a shelf or something like that. That doesn't change people's lives or enhance them. You got to show change in 3D. Get on base. By that I mean hit singles, take walks, get on base. See, I've now switched from football to baseball, but still, the idea is don't always try for the home run, because you're probably going to strike out a lot and spend a lot of time, talent, and treasure going for that home run. Just do small things, get on base, and then incrementally build, and you'll get some people across the plate in the end. So be authentic, but R&D, there's an acronym, rip off and duplicate, to save time and money, right? So in other words, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If some other town in New Jersey or Europe or Japan or wherever, Africa, did some really cool thing, and you can New Jerseyize it or Rahwayize it or whatever, then you should do that, because that will save you time and money. And again, one of my favorite rules, and people who know me know this, if nothing says you can't, you can. So if there's not a rule against it, that means you should still try it. And to that end, you should fail fast and learn from it, right? But the good news is you don't have, so then you can just keep doing better things. The good news is you don't have to fail fast and learn from things today, because we've got a great panel that you can not fail to then learn from them, and then you can R&D their stuff back in your communities, right? So, and then there's that other acronym I mentioned earlier. But in any case, we've got a great panel today, and now I'm going to theoretically switch over to the panel slide.
How's everybody? I hope good. Good. Excellent. Nice crowd. I was looking around the room this morning. I know a few of you guys, so clearly I'm yesterday's news. I will tell you who I am. 1989, I started running a special improvement district in Cranford, New Jersey, which was the first SID in the state, one of the early 6. I have a few older friends in the room, so it's nice to see you all in person. But my heart never left downtown, even though I'm a commercial real estate broker now with CBRE. For 17 years, I revitalized downtowns through special improvement districts. So from Cranford, I went to Red Bank. From Red Bank, I went to Newark. From Newark, I started my own business and consulted to cities around the country, some 30 places, on specifically retail merchandising, downtowns, and streets. So today we're going to look at downtown through the lens of retail and retailers, and kind of have an open discussion about how to make your downtown more leasable and what are the ingredients for a successful retail environment. Let's see. Thank you. Excellent. I'm a big believer in putting your head in the game. So I coach a lot. I coach field hockey. I run a figure skating program. I like to play tennis. Athletes have a formula for success, right? It's not an accident. So downtown should be treated the same, in my opinion. I think this is a great quote by Dennis Waitley. Success is almost totally dependent upon drive and persistence. The extra energy required to make another effort or try another approach is the secret of winning. Who believes that? Raise your hand. Oh, come on now. All right. You guys are going to be tough. There's too much to cover in what I do, so we're going to kind of boil it down to 5 key things. First is anatomy of the trade area, or I guess Jeff used a great word, place-based, right? Concepts in leasing, things that I think about in trying to put together a good mix. Site analytics, there's that word, analytics, very buzzy. Amount of retail, how much is too much? Merchandising and attracting tenants. So that's what I'm going to cover. 2 minutes each topic. Okay, ready, set, go. Who knows where this is? Other than somebody who I texted, don't say. Yell it out. Who knows where it is? All right, who said first? Because you are the winner of a t-shirt. Come on down here and get it. I ran a conference for my colleagues recently, last week, not because I'm asked to or I'm in charge, but because somebody needs to do it, right? And we have our Super Bowl of leasing starting on Monday. It's called the International Council of Shopping Centers. It's a global conference for retailers, brokers, developers, And so you have to get your head in the game for that. So I made t-shirts for my colleagues that said, up your game. So here, t-shirt time. Anybody go to the demo? Sorry. All right. Oops. Is that it? All right. So this is Red Bank. For those of you that don't know it, best place. Loved working there. Ran the special improvement district there called River Center. It's much bigger now than it used to be. Back then it was 150 businesses when I started, 150 properties rather. And so it really was like an 8-block length of Broad Street. It was a singular spine with a couple of side streets. And so there's a hierarchy to real estate, right? So if you know Red Bank, Broad Street is the address, right? White Street is a tertiary street. Wallace Street is a tertiary street. Mama Street, I'll call it a secondary street, right? So there's a hierarchy to the value of the address. So Broad Street is the main, right? And then you dead end to the park and to the water, which is visually blocked with a block of buildings. So there's a defined area just by natural circumstance. So when you talk about your district, there's natural boundaries, right? Key number one, the river, the train trestle, the hill, the incline, residential neighborhoods that abut the commercial area. Then there's a street grid, right? Some of them are logical, like New York City is very logical. But then there's like Bloomfield, kind of comes in like a pie, right? And then some of them are one way, some of them are newly one way, because I went there this week because it's my assignment. And I was like, oh, that used to not be one way. So street circulation and street grid is part of the hierarchy of the street. Two sides of the street. This is very important to what I do. Leasability is interrelational, right? If you have a one-sided street, so much harder to lease in a downtown environment than a two-sided street, because there's nothing coming back. It's energy just going out into infinity, and there's nothing coming back from the other side. But there's also on the two sides of the street hierarchy. Guess what is the indicator for that? Anybody have an idea? Sun. The sun. Sunny side of the street, more rent. Okay? It's a thing. It took me years to figure it out. Why is that side better? Why does everyone go that side? Because it's warmer. Civic spaces, public plazas, event spots, parking areas, anchor stores, distance to competing retail destinations. So Red Bank, right? Not even a mile. Let's call it 0.8 miles maybe. 1.2 miles from the best lifestyle center on the East Coast called the Grove at Shrewsbury. 1.2 miles. Every apparel store that has any worth is there. Lululemon, Ann Taylor, Talbot's, goes on and on. Okay, Vineyard Vines, come on. Monmouth Mall, 4.5 miles from Red Bank, right? So when we talk to retailers, we have to know their world, right? So Monmouth Mall is where you start, come to the Grove, then you go downtown Red Bank. Many years ago, we picked a lane, a swim lane, which was going to be dining, antiques, furniture, and service. That's what we picked. We let him have the fashion because we couldn't compete with it. We just frankly couldn't, right? We'll talk a little bit more about anchor stores in the next one. Parking, I think that Austin thing that you just mentioned, Jeff, is very interesting. But that's kind of like the anatomy of the local trade area, okay? Concepts and leasing. So here's what I think about. I mean, this slide and the next slide are really interrelated because when we talk to retailers, these are the things that they're going to think about. So, you know, street location, right? We talked about two sides of the street and how they interrelate. The circulation of the town. I know some of you have one-way streets in your districts, and sometimes it's fine and not a big deal because the public is accustomed to it, but many times it's an inhibitor to a healthy flow of traffic. And so you have to try to overcome that as best you can. I'm not saying change it. You know, I'm saying be open-minded about it. Is it working? If it's not working, change it, right? Advocate for that. You have the power to do that. Block lengths are a thing that people don't necessarily think about, but in ULI, Urban Land Institute, there is a rhythm to anchor placement, right? So anchor is something that is a demand generator. It creates people coming to the town. So could be a post office, could be a grocery store, could be a CVS, could be like a hot coffee shop, right? It could be Pliables, really. You know, wherever there's like a buzz being generated out of that, or what I call daily trip generator, daily trips, that's like an anchor store. Anchor stores in my world are big, right? Over 50,000 square feet. But in reality, the anchor store provides a function. So much smaller stores can be anchors just by their functionality and the people that they attract to them. The distance for anchor placement is 500 feet. Your pedestrians won't walk from A to B if B is 8 blocks down the street if there's not something to visit on the way. So you have to, in your leasing mind, place your anchors as you go down the street. Everybody with me?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So position in the trade area or the shopping districts. What does that mean? Well, physically, where is it? Is it in the middle? Is it on the end? Is it, you know, southwest corner? We speak a lot in latitude and longitude. It's funny how that kind of crept back up in my life again. When you're in school, you're like, latitude, longitude. Yeah, that's how retailers actually track everything. They use that data. We talked about the micro trade area. We could skip that. Fixed building size. Okay, you guys are experts in your own towns, but you have something called the built environment. The built environment is just what it is. You know, your buildings are sometimes in the older towns longer, right? 110 feet, not 60 feet, which a shopping center is built 60 feet for small shop space, 100 feet for anchor space, or 150 feet for a big anchor, right? Some of our old buildings are 20 feet wide and 120 feet deep. Is that hard to lease? Yes, it's very hard to lease because it gives you the feeling of a bowling alley, right? So the fixed building size is always a challenge. In Prudential, in Newark, we actually chopped off the back half of the building to shorten it up because I said to them, what are we going to do with this? We can't make small shop space because it's on Halsey Street, which is a very pedestrianized street, right, with, you know, the scale is smaller. So that just didn't work. So we ultimately decided to chop off 75 feet of the building and shorten it up. It's a great idea. Now it's all leased, right? So it's funny how that physical stuff could really impact things. The building attributes, we're going to talk about that next slide. Is it a key run or transition block? What does a run mean? If you're in mall leasing, a run is a row of like-kinded stores. The athletic apparel run, Lulu, Athleta, Fabletics, Snipes, blah, blah, blah. Get what I'm saying? Or apparel, ladies apparel, Express, you know, and you go down the line. Runs are groupings of like-kinded stores, right? It's all based on use. Inline or end cap, does everybody understand what I mean by that? End cap is a corner or like a fake corner even on a plaza. Doesn't have to be at a light. And then inline is in the middle of the block. Even one off the corner. If it's one off the corner, I usually say one off the corner because it's still better than middle of the block, right? The middle of the block is not that good. And then anchor placement we spoke about. So this is one of the monsters of retail centers of New Jersey. It's not my project, but I think it's important to see how a developer looked at redeveloping a racetrack, right? This is Cherry Hill. Everybody is here. I mean, unbelievable amount of power and GLA, gross leasable area. They started with the Wegmans strip, right? And then feel like every 5 years they develop another 20 acres. And so, you know, now they just put the Costco like a year and a half ago. Then they put Trader Joe's. Actually, over here is Trader Joe's now. But this is called a lease plan. If you do not have one for your town, you need one. So hire an engineer, get yourself a GIS map made of all your buildings, and make yourself a leasing plan if this is something that your SID wants to do, okay? We use this every day in what I do. This is analyzing a site. I'm just running through these 5 things that we're going to cover. So site analytics is a lot of different things. One, it's physical attributes, right off the top. So it's where is it located? Is it southwest corner? Is it a signalized intersection? In this case, is a freestanding bank in downtown Chatham, right? This is 434 Main Street. So it's downtown Chatham, but it's freestanding. It was a former bank. A lot of banks are empty right now, and they're being repositioned for other uses. This has parking, but it's underparked for really a true conversion. And it has a drive-through, which we don't necessarily need because we're probably not getting food approved in Chatham. So it's got some challenges to it. Plus, it's about 50 years old on the inside. You can see the parking there. Where the trees are on the left, they've got a drainage ditch. So there's a physical limitation for you, okay? So that's a little bit about site attributes. This is downtown Newark, totally different built environment. The red box up at the top is Shops on Broad. It's owned by Prudential. I did the leasing for the last 10 years. It's amazing when you can work for one owner that has multiple buildings where you can bring tenants in at the same time. It changed the nature of that street pre-COVID. Hugely impactful. This just is the lease plan, even in a downtown environment, for that. So we can talk more about this, but I wanted to show you, even in a city block, how to do it. Site analytics is heavily reliant upon data, right? Demographic data, pedestrian count data, traffic count data, income. Now, I use cell phone data. Cell phone data every day of the week. Every site, every listing I have, I pull cell phone data. Might be from Starbucks across the street. Freaky scary, but highly accurate. I can draw a trade area for any property based on cell phone data. How much retail is too much retail? I have about 1 minute left, so I'm going to be quick. Not every development needs retail on the bottom floor, okay? Town people, please listen. It is not leasable all the time, right? We think, oh, it creates a nice buffer, transition to the street, it fits into the streetscape. No, we don't have to have it everywhere. If it's tertiary street, please don't make me have a leasing assignment on a tertiary street with retail that's too low, with the ceilings are only 10 feet, not 14 feet, 16 feet. It's very difficult to lease, and a lot of times we're requiring developers to put it in anyway. But then they put in their own gym and their own mail room and their own, concierge service. And then what am I going to lease it to? Because I put in the boutique fitness, but they now have the gym and the yoga guy coming into the building. So it's counterintuitive, right? So how much retail is too much retail? We can have discussion about that later. Had to include one casualty. Bed Bath & Beyond, Jersey born, right? They own all these brands. Some of them have been spin off, like Christmas trees owned separately now. But instantly, so much space became available overnight, right? These landlords, Kimco, Site Centers, and Kite Realty have tremendous exposure with this. Almost like, I think if I read that correctly, yeah, Kimco is almost 1 million square feet of empty Bed Bath & Beyond space, right? It's a lot of space. This is Bloomfield. We can talk about this. I mean, it's a 6-point, it's like a pie-shaped intersection, right? And the train station is to the upper left, and that triangular Avalon built downtown. They built a lot of mixed-use residential. Those are all tertiary streets, by the way. Super hard to lease. They've now made them one-way circulation. Okay, added to the challenge. They put a food town in there, not unlike the grocery store that used to be downtown New Brunswick, right? It's kind of like, does anyone go there? Like when you drive by, you're like, is that open? So you have to do stuff that makes sense, right? If it doesn't feel right, don't do that deal. I think I'm gonna be out of time, but merchandising, this is my definition of merchandising, by the way, not Merriam-Webster. Placement of uses and the result or interaction of the uses when placed together or in proximity, right? If you put a bank next to a library, next to a Christian Science reading room, next to a crystal store, how's that feel? Ho-hum, right? Ho-hum. When you put, Lululemon, put Apple's like unbelievable anchor, right? Nike, Starbucks, SoulCycle, all of these, when you go in, you're like, I'm in pineapple land. You know what it feels like when you go to different stores. So merchandising means something, right? Leasing A lot of times in leasing, little secret you may or may not know, owners with large properties give cheap rent, sometimes no rent, to the anchor store to be able to lease off of that store. So the Grove at Shrewsbury, when he started 35 years ago, Ann Taylor practically paid no rent for 3 years. You know why? Because he needed Ann Taylor to get Gap, Talbots, I mean, it's totally changed over now, but, you know, they have the ability to do that. So SIDS, guess what power you have under the statute? You can defray rent to get a store, pay their rent for them, bring that store to your town, lease the rest of it off, right? It's a risky thing, but you have the statute that will allow you to do that. So that's food for thought. Am I out of time? Yeah, all right. We can come back to this when we do questions and answers. Thank you.
I got it. Great. Thanks, everybody. My name's Chris Colley. I'm a planner. I work with a company called Topology. We do a lot of municipal planning around the state. I have no T-shirts, so it's too bad. Didn't get that memo. So I'm going to touch on a lot of similar stuff to what Marta spoke about, but really coming more from the municipal planning side. So good to hear that the market and the municipality might be thinking similarly in terms of policy. But I sort of came up with 4 lessons, and I structured them around this idea that we hear a lot when we talk to towns, which is like, our retail's struggling, there's just no market here, right? And like, sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's okay that, you know, the market might not be there, and that's one challenge. But oftentimes, like, there's a lot of policies that may be in place, that a municipality's put in place, that are making it hard for the market to function and making it hard for our retail spaces to succeed. So I just, before I get into my 4 lessons, want to just start with this idea about the first floor. And I put first in quotes because it's the first floor counting. But for people visiting our communities, like, it's also really the most important floor in terms of what they experience and in terms of whether or not they decide to come back, or if they live there, you know, whether or not they choose to walk around. So my one Q&A is, does anybody know where this building is? Somerville, yeah, okay. So, and I put this up here not because it's like the world's best building, but because I walk by it all of the time, and I actually have no idea what's going on upstairs, but I do know what's going on at the ground floor. I go into that restaurant sometimes. So when we are confronted with planning for mixed-use buildings or really any multi-level building, I find that a lot of the thinking goes into what's going to go on upstairs, how many units are going to be upstairs, how much office is upstairs. But really, sort of disproportionately for people who are visiting, their experience is defined by that first floor. So we need to be spending probably even more time thinking about those ground floor spaces than we do thinking about the upper floor spaces. Because really what we're trying to do is accomplish like these vibrant and active places that people want to come back to, and we want them to look more like this than like this. That's my 1/2 joke. Thank you. Okay. All right. So this is kind of builds off of a theme that Marta spoke to a little bit. This is the former Lord and Taylor building in Westfield. I see some representatives of the owners over there, and Don, the town planner in Westfield. Hi. And the lesson that I want to sort of speak to about this building and the redevelopment project that's ongoing in Westfield right now is that more retail is not necessarily better. If you're trying to like sort of promote a downtown revitalization effort, there might be this concept that like what we need is just more retail. We need more space to lease, right? And you need to, when you're doing that, think about what types of end users might actually utilize those spaces, and like what more actually means from a leasing perspective, but also just from a sort of experiential perspective. If you have a big 140,000 square foot building like this, on paper, you might say, wow, we've added 140,000 square feet of retail space to our downtown. But what you're not going to be adding by building something like this, this is an extreme example, nobody's going to build this right now. You're not going to be adding the sort of multiple storefronts and sort of diverse walking experience that like is what attracts people to and brings people to downtowns. So the other sort of point I want to make here on this, and this is just a little floor plan and rendering from the redevelopment agreement that the town entered into, oftentimes I find when people plan for mixed-use buildings, the retail spaces become something of a leftover, and they sort of just get colored in retail, like that's the ground floor, let's put retail there. And that leaves people like Marta or potential entrepreneurs or whatever in a very challenging spot where they've theoretically have the square footage, but the square footage that they're left with is not actually functional or attractive. So, you know, in this project, like there could have been a temptation to line retail all along these building frontages here. The town ultimately decided not to do that. What we did is we just focused the retail in these two key locations. We tried to make it of an appropriate scale for leasing to try and give us the best chance of success. Let's see, halfway through, okay. So second sort of ground up lesson, and again, this kind of builds off what Marta said. Not everything like downtown is a retail location, and even things that are downtown that have good addresses might not be retail locations. This is Morris Street in Morristown. Morris Street, in theory, is a retail address. This is a new mixed-use building that just came up. It's sort of on the outskirts of downtown in a transition between really commercial core and residential area. We wanted this building to have the appearance or the sort of feel of a mixed-use building, but we were concerned about whether or not retail could actually succeed here. So what this building has in it is there's a small bit of retail on one end. We allowed the redeveloper to do like a co-working amenity space for their tenants or for the public in the middle, and then allowed it to transition to residential over on the far side. I think when we first started looking at this site, we probably would have just painted red on the ground floor and had retail all the way across. But when you're in a sort of site-specific situation, like sometimes I think it's okay to have a little bit of ground floor residential in and around the downtown. It's going to be fine. It's better than having vacant retail, and it can sort of accomplish some of the same goals. So those are my two sort of ground-up lessons. My other two lessons relate more to infill. And sort of repopulating and reoccupying existing spaces. And I think they're both important. I'm at Blaustein, so I'll say there's that great Jane Jacobs quote or section about the 4 components of a great street, and like one of those components is a diversity of buildings in terms of their age and their size. So, you know, downtowns are not going to thrive if the entire downtown are these sort of ground up, mixed use, large scale redevelopment projects that doesn't create a diversity of income levels that can occupy those spaces, doesn't create a diversity of scale. So repopulating these buildings is critical. Again, I'm at Blaustein, so I won't go too into parking, because anybody in here love parking? No? But I will say that, like...
Next forum will be parking.
Okay, cool. I will say that, like, you know, codes across the state are just, like, very discouraging for potential small business owners when they require, you know, 5 per thousand retail, whatever, 4 per thousand this. I personally feel that, like, if the retail wants the parking, like, they'll go somewhere with the parking, and like we as the municipal policymakers shouldn't be putting up that first barrier to say that no, you can't come here because we have this parking standard. And we talk frequently with towns who have this like curious dual challenge of they have too much vacancy but not enough parking, and it's like, well, just doesn't quite add up. So all of that said, it's hard to roll into a town and, you know, we'll reference this Austin example for the third time, say, hey, good news, we're getting rid of all the parking standards, like, don't worry, it'll be fine. Like, that's a challenging political hurdle for someone to overcome. So there's lots of little tweaks that you can make to parking if you're not willing to just say, let's get rid of all the retail requirements. This is just one from Boonton, which is a great main street. A lot of these older historic buildings there. In Boonton, they just simply said that if you have an existing building that's on Main Street and you're reoccupying it, like, we'll just waive the parking for you. And that's kind of like a little incremental thing that isn't as much of a big swing as eliminating all parking requirements. But there's lots of things you could do like that, centralized parking, shared parking, these types of exemptions. Little things to not let parking get in the way. My fourth and final lesson, and this is the most dry, but maybe the most important of them all. The definitions that we have in towns are also can be quite antiquated. And this can be really challenging for someone because it creates a use variance for them if they don't meet it. And that's just a really challenging barrier for someone to get over. So if you are a municipal policymaker and you're wondering why nobody's populating your downtown stores, take a look at your definitions. You might have a situation like this one, which we're working on updating, where your permitted uses specify how many folks can be involved in production of materials or include central telephone exchanges, but would not accommodate a hatchet throwing facility or something else that somebody else might want to do. That's 10 minutes and 4 seconds. So these are my closing thoughts. You can read them briefly, and then we can hit on them back at the Q&A. So thanks for listening, and
Really well done. So we've started top level, right? We're looking at policies, we're looking at strategies, we're looking at sort of paradigms and broad concepts. Now we're kind of moving the panel in more to the details, the tactical. Okay, so Melissa Hodge is up next to, again, up, I assume, to take it away and talk about South Orange.
Just hit the arrow here, right? Yep. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Melissa Hodge. I'm the Executive Director for South Orange Downtown. A little backstory, I started in the SID world almost 20 years ago in downtown Brooklyn, and then spent eight years down there, and then Jamaica Center, Jamaica Queens. And then for the last 9 years, I've been in South Orange. So I'm going to focus a lot on what we've been doing, what's been successful for us, what we find to be working. So before you can formulate a game plan to attract retail businesses, you need to understand what are your assets. So instead of focusing on what you don't have, we're like, what do we have? What can we tap into? And for us, South Orange downtown is easily accessible. New Jersey Transit is in the center of our downtown, so it's a 37-minute ride to the city. We have a performing arts center that steps away from the train, and then we're a walkable downtown. You can get to just about any business within a 5 to 7 minute walk. And then more recently, we've had a lot of mixed use developments which have led to more residents moving into the downtown. And then a lot of our businesses offer experiential shopping and dining, so we wanted to tap into that and focus on that. So in understanding those elements, we pick 3 areas that we focus on to kind of achieve our goals. So with activation, we think about what type of promos, events, and things can we do to just attract more foot traffic to the downtown? And ideally, when that foot traffic is there, how do we drive them into the businesses? Advocacy and business support. How can we work with our community partners and the local businesses to offer more support? We need to hear from them. And then beautification, the common one, what can you do to enhance your downtown? Because people want to come to a space that looks good, that's, it's the first thing you see. So when you think of activation, we start with community events. So events are an easy way to help drive traffic into the district, and over time can kind of lead to your downtown becoming a destination. Now, Jeff said, don't do too many events. I agree. But what we do is we have one signature event. So for us, the Undercover Music Fest, that's our signature event. That's the event that takes a lot of our resources. But then we also do smaller events that don't require a lot of time and can kind of run themselves in a sense. So downtown after sundown, we have free live music weekly throughout the summers to just kind of encourage the community to come out, grab dinner, sit in our small park and eat. The farmers market has is a destination. It's something that we've been doing for over 30 years, and it brings people into the community. And then the holiday market, two things about the farmers market and the holiday market. We want people to be able to test the space before they invest in a brick and mortar. And the farmers market and the holiday market have allowed merchants to do that. So as a result of that, in one of our newest mixed retail development, the town has negotiated for us to have 2,000 square feet that's dedicated incubator space, so businesses can now come in, test the market, and then branch out and become staple members of the community. So don't be afraid to try new things and think outside of the box in terms of events and just activities. For marketing and promotions, it's another branch under our activation. It looks overwhelming, but I promise you it doesn't have to be. A lot of times, if you're like us, you're a small organization, your resources are extremely limited in terms of time and staff. For a long time, South Orange was staffed by one person. Now we're a 2-staff organization. And a lot of times in that capacity, you're doing 10 jobs among yourselves. So time management, tapping into volunteers is key. There's a lot of people who live in the community and they want to give back with their skill set, so don't be afraid to take advantage of that. Use your volunteers. It's the only way we're able to do a lot of what we do. But marketing, capitalize on social media. Social media is a free platform. It's out there for you to use. A lot of times your small businesses, they're just not on social media. It's either they don't have the resources, they don't know how to do it. So it can be a challenge, but try to post. We utilize every holiday, every upcoming shopping event, just to kind of highlight the businesses with, we create templates. Templates can be your best friend. Use Canva. Canva has worked wonders for us in saving on graphics and those type of costs, but you find cost savings where you can, and just templates help. And you use this to kind of promote and give your businesses an online presence, because a lot of time you find that people just don't know what is there. And as we've done a lot of events have led to people kind of starting to become awareness. So people know, kind of understand, okay, South Orange Downtown, let's follow them. And then they start to follow and see what you post, which is your businesses, everything happening in your downtown. Another promo that was really successful for us that I want to point out is Downtown Dollars. So you want to incentivize people to shop. Many years ago, American Express used to do the credit during Small Business Saturday, and they stopped that. So we've picked up that program where on Small Business Saturday, you spend $50 or more at a business, $10 off, and us as the organization, we pay the businesses those funds. So it's kind of a way to drive people into the businesses. And then another cool promotion that I think went across really well is the Elf Chase. Now, we have a downtown gift card, and we wanted to kind of really just encourage people to spend money in the downtown and valid at over 30 businesses, but they can just go they buy the gift card from us and then spend it at the local businesses, and we pay the businesses for all the gift cards they redeem. So with the Elf Chase, during the holidays, we put an elf in all of our businesses, and they just can go in and win and enter a raffle. So the thought behind that is just forcing people to go into businesses that they might not have gone to before to find this elf. And what's special about South Orange is that it's very family oriented. So kind of just understanding who your audience is. So a promo like this is definitely appealing to families, and parents will take their kids out, and then you go around. So I think having that just drives people into more businesses that they may not have seen, and just kind of encourage more foot traffic in that way. So again, don't be afraid to think outside of the box and just try programs. All of them will not work, but you try until you find something that works, and it's okay. I'm gonna wrap it up really quick. So Downtown on Display, I will say this is our newest program and our favorite. I think it works best because it directly impacts the businesses. It's with this program, we curate special events directly with the businesses. So we're not doing the work. A lot of the work is done by the business, and we help to push it out. So it's an opportunity for people to really experience what your business has to offer. and the impact is immediate to the business because you're taking people into the businesses and they're seeing exactly what the businesses have to offer, and it leaves the businesses feeling supported. So businesses, they want to, one, understand that they have someone backing them and is trying to support them. That encourages them to reinvest in the community. And then two, businesses talk to each other. So people looking to reinvest in your downtown, they're talking to other businesses. I'm gonna make it really quick. My last two slides. So what can we do to help the businesses strive? One-on-one support. Building relationships with your business is key. They need to be able to have honest conversations with you because honest conversations let you know what you need to do. And sharing resources. Stakeholder communications is another thing that's key because they're not going looking for the programs that are available, the grant opportunities, so bring that information to your businesses. And then networking. Businesses want to connect with each other. So create that platform so they can connect in a safe space and be able to be transparent with you. And then if you can, offer incentive programs. For us, we do a facade grant and small business webinar, create reels for them. Just wherever you can offer incentives for the businesses, do that. It makes a difference. And then streamline the process. For us, South Orange, we had some challenges where we had the reputation of it being difficult to do business, to open a business in town. So one thing we did was create a how to open a business guide to help people understand these are the steps. It's clear, you know ahead of time what you need to do. We struggled with the parking. A lot of businesses were not able to get use permits because they didn't meet parking requirements. So for us, we were able to work with the township. So it's important to build relationships with your township partners as well, the municipal government, to make those changes. We were able to create a parking waiver so that if you're under 2,500 square feet, you're now exempt from the parking ordinance, and now we're currently going to work to completely redo the ordinance. So make sure you just build those relationships, because when you build those relationships and everyone is on the same page, you can affect change. And then my final slide is people like to live, shop, and dine and open their business in a downtown that feel and look great. So public art is a great way to enhance the look of your downtown, and art can tell a story, and it's also a visual representation of your district's personality. So think about beautification projects, and for us, we've done a lot of public art, but you can also do things as simple as rapid lounging, do pop-up seating to order more places for people to congregate. You can do just simple art projects, community art projects. So just think of ways you can enhance your downtown. And thank you for your time. I'm happy to continue this conversation offline beyond the panel. My contact info is there.
Thanks, Melissa. So much to tell.
Thanks.
Speaking of so much to tell, to wrap up our formal presentations from the panel, we have Jim Donio, the town advocate from Hamilton.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. All right. 1 sec. Okay. So thanks, everyone. As Jeff said, I'm town advocate for Hamilton. Hamilton is located about half an hour from Atlantic City and half an hour from Philadelphia. So we're actually not really a suburb of anywhere. We have rural roots, but we don't actually kind of fit in any one particular bucket. So maybe there are things that everyone can kind of pick up from today. I'm going to be focusing primarily on our efforts in downtown Hamilton during our 30-plus years of revitalization efforts. Through our Main Street program, our NPP program, and other programs, we've focused pretty heavily on the street presence, in particular in helping businesses, both new and existing, work through design. And so I'm going to kind of hit a few examples here quickly. And basically, what we've done is, since our primary route through our town is and our downtown is a state highway, it's Route 54. And it's also fairly heavily traveled by shore visitors in the summer months. So what we've done is we've really wanted to make an effort to try to get people to pull off, right, as they're coming through our downtown, get to a parking spot, and then hopefully pique their interest as they're barreling through town, probably a little too quickly usually, right? So from a transportation perspective, because obviously that's why we're here today at its root, we do have a train station, a New Jersey Transit station that runs from Lindenwold to Atlantic City. Not that frequent, little sporadic stops, and kind of disconnected from our core Main Street and downtown. So we've had to focus more on our bus route, which runs through the center of town, and also our vehicular traffic, really. We're also fairly pedestrian and bike friendly. Okay, so I'm going to kind of pop on here. What we do is we work with, this is the before and after. These are just very limited examples. We have some grander examples and some simpler examples, but this is, I think, a good indicator, and all of my slides here are visual. What we kind of, our tagline is small town feel, big city appeal, because we try to bring to the table a finesse, kind of a rural or small town charm that we have, but also pick up on arts, because we created an art district. We have a vibrant, I found the Eagle Theater, which is a professional equity theater company in Hamilton as well. So we have a vibrant, eclectic mix of businesses and restaurants. But what we found was, as we do more outreach to our Latino community, we have a very vibrant Latino community as well. And if you're ever looking for some of the best Mexican food in New Jersey or Philly area, it's been documented by many critics that it's in Hamilton. So this is a wonderful example of a success story that I'm going to use as kind of a case study here. Primarily, what I'll be focusing on is this and two other smaller other projects. So this is El Mariachi Loco, which is owned by a lovely couple who started this business, and it just kind of popped up. As it was popping up not in that color, but actually first pink, bright pink, and that kind of jarred the neighborhood a little bit. So some of the neighbors said, "Hey, can we get together and just try and do some design work?" So we had those services, but this one kind of popped up because that particular landlord wasn't really wired in as much, right? So having those good relationships with landlords and property owners really is important here, and that's a key takeaway. Regardless, we worked with them. There were some language barriers, so we worked with some. We have great partnerships with some of our wonderful community partners that helped us with translation and building those relationships. So we worked with a couple, and while they had already selected a not necessarily the most aesthetically pleasing signage, they did their best. They actually happened to have excellent food, like outstanding food. And as that started to build out, we had the Philadelphia Inquirer's food critic came through town at that point. Craig Laban at the time, and he wrote about this restaurant along with a few others and documented us as really one of the absolute premier spots for Mexican dining in the region. So these folks started to get a lot more business. So that was right as we were working with them on branding and helping them kind of get going. So what we did was we worked with Cindy Williams, who's a designer, graphic designer, and with an extensive downtown background and expertise. And she helped us work with them to create this brand, and I'm going to actually jump back and forth just for a sec here because I didn't put it all on one slide. Oh, sorry. Okay. This was one palette. We had various different versions. There were probably about maybe 36 versions, and Jeff knows Cindy and knows that the wide variety for anyone that hasn't worked with her. This was one color palette just to give an idea of what it looked like. Well, they've kind of fell in love with that. We altered it slightly, finessed it, worked with them, and not only helped them create their logo and their signage and their brand and their palette, but then also built out their menus with them, alongside them, highlighting some of the most profitable items that they have and showcasing those. And then we worked with them on their website and their social media platforms as well. So they quickly, we quickly worked with them, gave them a very tiny little grant to help do some facade work. And then that design work, as I said, we work with professionals, but we also have a team of volunteers as well. And those professionals working with the volunteers, the business owners, and the stakeholders and the municipal government all work really well together. And that's how we've achieved so many kind of success stories here. So to go from that to that, plus the coverage that they got, plus some of the branding and advertising we did collectively, started to really make them a draw. So that then got them to, and their excellent food, that got them to this building. They grew very quickly and expanded to one of the premier buildings in our downtown. This is the Godfrey Building. Fun fact, Jill Biden, Dr. Jill Biden is from Hamilton originally. She was born there. Many people don't know that. So the First Lady, this was her grandparents' store. This was a Rexall drugstore many years ago. So that's the fun fact for this building. So El Mariachi Loco moved here. They expanded, vibrant part, a key anchor. It's kind of the key central anchor. In fact, the New Jersey Transit line is to the left there. You can kind of see a fence over there by the tree. And that's our train coursing through downtown. Nice building. It was starting to kind of fade a little bit there. The building was restored by an artist years before, who was the landlord. But still great intersection, great spot, worlds better than what it was before. So then it started to get a little more shabby, right? And so we were working, and unfortunately that was right as the pandemic hit. It was getting its most shabby. He was ready to do, Roberto, the owner there, was ready to do some work. You could see he still took pride in, with his flowers and the other things going on there, but then the awnings were pulled off, started to get shabbier, and unfortunately for about 2 years, we lost 2 years, and it was really becoming an eyesore. We were lining up funding and design work at that point, and we took the project from there to there. So that actually is the finished product working with Margaret Westfield Design, which is a preservation architect. And that is a little more historically appropriate awnings and a little more historically appropriate color pattern for the building itself. This was right after, they actually weren't done all the paint, but this was right after. And the rest of the street presence has come back with tables and chairs and outdoor dining. This was done shown a little bit more in the winter, along with flowers and other things as well. This is now a kind of a landmark building. You'll notice their name changed from El Mariachi to El Nuevo Mariachi Loco because, right, early on they didn't necessarily have that much knowledge or expertise in the area of all the laws and trademarks. So there were some issues that they ran into there, and we helped work through that with them, right? All right, this is, I only have 2 more examples. That's the primary one I wanted to show. But again, the whole purpose of these is to show, yes, getting a vibrant mix, but also just getting people to get out of their cars, which is key for us, because again, we're on a state highway here, so those trucks and cars rumble through town, and New Jersey Transit buses rumble through town pretty aggressively. This is not the best looking building in our downtown, but it's a pretty iconic, important one for us. And so in the center of a block, it goes from front to rear of another block as well, so we have rear access here, not ADA accessible from the front, and was done about 30 years ago on the first floor to at least slap together a tenant, because the landlord just wanted any kind of tenant at that point 30 years ago, and unfortunately this is what we got in that era, as hard as we tried to work against it, with the landlord, but against this facade improvement on the first floor. So it's aged out. And so what we're working with now is, this is now our concept for the building, to bring back the storefronts. Those center doors are ADA compliant. We worked with a structural engineer along with our professionals and our design committee to bring it back to not completely historically, accurate, but pretty, but at least picking up on some of the history of the building. And the concept here, we were just awarded, we're a public-private partnership with the landlord that the town has put together and we were just awarded by the United States Department of Agriculture the other day for a hotel feasibility study along with the interior design work. So the interior architectural and engineering work will now all be funded by the USDA. So the accessibility here, and this is I think important for all of our downtowns, so it wasn't accessible before. This will be the primary entrance to whatever goes on here. These are intentionally built up, and then even if it doesn't become a hotel, the access way that we'll get there is now at grade, and then there's a ramp, ADA accessible ramp that goes up into the interior of the building, right and left to those storefronts, restaurants, lobby, whatever it might be, and then a new elevator toward the center of the building to get us access to open up the second and third floor. These are some of our only vacancies in the downtown, so we're really hyper-focusing on some of the most important ones, pooling our resources, and making sure that we take these negatives and turn them into extreme positive. This will become we think another really key anchor or landmark, whether it's a hotel or not. We believe it can be. This is just a final example. I know I have to wrap here in a minute, but this is a final example of one of our current projects. We have more project design improvement projects going on now than in the entire history of the downtown combined in 30 years. So we have more going on currently, more projects happening, both with a little bit of seed funding and design funding, but also with some improvement funding that we have through NPP and other sources. But we also just have a tremendous amount of private investment going on still in our town. When we see in our downtown those dumpsters and those construction permits out near buildings, that's how we know things are still going well, and we're hoping that stays that way. So this is Tacos de Tortas, one of the most popular, and according to my 14-year-old son, the absolute best taco truck in town. It's parked here now. It's actually, we changed some codes unfortunately, so that some food trucks couldn't be parked necessarily in all the same areas that they used to be permitted right within the core of the downtown. That being said, that actually it hurt some folks, but it also helped others. And in this case, these folks moved up the street. Then they continued to invest in their building, and now they're going to open a brick and mortar and keep their taco truck up the street. So we actually have benefited the town and the community as a whole. This was their logo and their brand that they established many years ago. Kind of old school, just very simple. We worked with them, and we were a little hesitant because there's some language barriers there and some generational barriers. So we were really concerned. So we built the relationship, and what we did was we worked with them with Cindy Williams Design, and we were a little concerned. We picked up on the wagon wheel, so it was a tip of the hat to their logo and their brand that they had established and they were very proud of, and we didn't want to ignore that. And so what we did was we worked with the color palette they had inside the building and tried to pull some of that out to show them that we, again, had care and concern for them and their brand and their family as well. This is the way they didn't want to change anything. We sat down and they were just like, this is perfect, we love it, and they didn't want to change a thing. And that is, I'm going to say, probably going to be one of our big success stories. We obviously have a brewery, we have a lot of breweries, wineries, and now a distillery in town. And all the way down the end of that block, this was a dead block, it was an old, it was semi-abandoned overhead door factory, manufacturer and distributor. So those were all overhead doors, almost all of it. This was a separate building. But this block was basically dead, completely obliterated, annihilated, nothing, no street presence. It'll now also at the other end, and we'll touch it on it, I think, in maybe the Q&A. The other end where it's kind of still has the old sign for the door company, that's now is being transformed currently. The storefront was blocked up, and it's currently being transformed into, along with most of the rear of the building, to what amounts to a makerspace with a great company and a couple from the area who have a huge social media presence as well and are kind of influencers as well. So they already have a business established. This is their first formal brick and mortar in a downtown, and this will be their headquarters for their brand as well. So this block will be not just activated, but probably one of our best. Went from our worst, probably, arguably, Jeff, right? You think maybe? Yeah. To one of our best. And while it's not a traditional, it doesn't have a second or third story, no, never did in this block, and it's right on the outskirts, it's right on the very edge of our district. It now becomes a welcoming environment for the rest of the town. And then this kind of just picks up on that branding, because again, what we don't do is we don't just talk about their logo or work with these businesses on their logo or their brand establishment, but or their exterior design. We work with them on their interior design, how it complements each other. Because again, once we get them out of their cars on this state highway, parked, and into some of these businesses, we need every single aspect of their experience to be perfect. And that's something we instill with all of our business owners in town, our volunteers, our event organizers, and all the other stakeholders involved. So this is an example of, again, some of the digital presence that we'll have, and then any print media they may do as well. We kind of work with them on a whole package and then give them access to that at no additional cost. So I think that is pretty much the end of my segment. I know it's a little longer, but thank you.
So now we're going to head to some guided questions. We're going to start with strategic question. We're going to move to a policy question, and we're going to end with a tactical question as time permits, and then it'll be audience free-for-all at that point. So nonviolent. Strategic question to our wonderful team of panelists today. So what are some proactive approaches you've taken to, or would recommend that you wish you would take maybe, to fill vacancies with businesses that fit your market realities and vision? Because the fact is, a lot of our communities are running 20, 30, 40% vacancies right now, let alone shopping centers and other places, but just some of our downtown districts that were otherwise healthy pre-pandemic and so forth. So what are some proactive approaches that you've taken that you'd recommend?
Can I answer that?
Please, Martha.
Okay. So Jeff just mentioned districts might be experiencing 20-30% vacancy. I think you should understand the relativity to that. So like on a national average, it's less than 5% retail vacancy nationally right now and in New Jersey. So it's one of the tightest markets for retail. The recovery has been predominantly in the suburbs, okay, not necessarily in the urban areas. We don't know how long that's going to take, but from our perspective, we want to be aligned with urban owners so that we are ready when people are returning to those markets. There's a couple quick things I would say. One is information gather. That's the very first step. Gather your information, get your statistics, make the list of vacancies, create a spreadsheet, list the sizes, have your contact information ready, broker, owner, whoever the case may be. Okay, so information gather. 2, educate, like define the message and then start getting it out there. And by that, I don't mean just to the outside world, to possible tenants or brokers like myself, but also inside, right? Because in the tent, there's sometimes a lot of disgruntled, there's not enough parking, you know, no, like you can't have that sort of negativity. If you're trying to show space and they're like, God, don't come here, you can't even park out in front of your store. Well, you shouldn't be parking in front of your store, right? So you have a little bit of that you have to deal with. It's called internal marketing, right? And then you've got to prioritize, right? You can't do 30 at once. So pick your top 3. I think you guys all said that. You have to pick your battles, if you will. And I think, Jeff, you also said it, you called it something else.
Getting on base, yeah.
I call it
Yeah.
half a loaf is better than no loaf, right? So, yes, we all want Lululemon. Yes, we all want Starbucks. No, whatever it is, fill it, and then we'll work on the merchandising to bring it up. So I think it's best to just, deal with the vacancy as best you can, but then work on the merchandising, because as things are filling up, the buzz is being created, it will evolve. It will evolve, and it may change the center of gravity, right? Like your epicenter historically may not be the epicenter 20 years from now or 20 months from now. So last 2 things. Expand your use expectation. What does that mean? It's not yesteryear. We don't have Woolworths, right? We might have a plasma donation center, or we might have, a great restaurant, or we might have an education center or childhood, I don't want to say daycare. Sports is an anchor now. Athletic facilities, fitness, boutique fitness. Education, I said. Medical, nobody wants it, but medical is, we call it medtail. It's considered an allowable retail use now, right? So fill the vacancy. And then be realistic in your rent expectations. I know a lot of you owners out there, we want the top dollar, we want to hold out for that last 5 cents. Be realistic, make the deal. The tenant in every instance is driving the deal, just to let you know. And then the last thing is be daring. You guys have the best SID statute in the country. Use it to your advantage, right? You have so many powers. It doesn't always have to be clean and safe. You can do lots of economic development stuff, joint ventures, real estate development. So that's my nutshell.
Jeff, you mind if I pick up
Oh,
just on
please.
that piece of
Jump
it?
on.
So related to that, I'm glad you mentioned it because that's what I wanted to jump in with. So whether you have an improvement district, and we helped found an improvement district, an art district, an MPP district, a Main Street district, but our improvement district is quite small, so it doesn't cover our whole downtown. So for us, because we were nervous people would get scared, obviously small town, so people get nervous when they hear improvement district and anything related to taxes. So what we did was we were creative for that one, for some projects we worked on, but we got equally creative, and I think that's what I would say is for proactivity. What can you do? Get equally creative. If you don't have an improvement district or can't get one put into place, there are also ways within your municipal government, generally speaking, to do certain types of things and get creative in how you approach that. So in our case, we recently, first time, really almost the first time ever, I guess, we're proactively, through our municipal government, which works pretty collaboratively with all of our other stakeholders, we encourage them to put an offer in and acquire a former Wells Fargo bank, which is kind of a centerpiece, kind of iconic building in our downtown too, that of course, vacant as of a couple months ago. So we aggressively pursued it, worked with them, they put it out, and we put in the most competitive offer through the municipality. We're seeking some funding to acquire it, and hopefully, if everything goes well, we'll be acquiring that over the summer. So why? Why would we do that? Because it encompassed a lot of parking. Some of that parking was right along our main street, so we'd like to long-term create some infill development there, right, to try and add that street presence to get the other side of that two-sided street back. And then also, it's just a great 100-year-old building right on a corner that we think can be adaptively reused for some type of additional street presence. So I guess I'm just back to that. Just be creative. We didn't have an improvement district in place there. We considered trying to wrap the improvement district and extend it to that. We didn't have the time to turn that around in time to make this offer. So we got creative. We worked with our town solicitor and some other creative thinkers, and we just came up with a solution that we felt worked best. So there are always solutions. It's just a question of how you approach them, and then bringing more people into the room to think creatively, because it can't all just fall on one or two people.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Melissa's got some insight.
I mean, the only thing I'll add is take a look at your municipal code, because the challenge for years we were struggling with is that people were coming in and this use is not permitted throughout a downtown. From tattoo parlors to having sip and paint on the ground floor, we couldn't have that. So take a look at your code and see if your code needs to be revamped, and that may be your first step.
No, that's a great point.
Just one simple thing to add, like you can only accomplish so much behind a laptop. So even if you collect all of that information that Marta was running off before, like it actually has to get in the hands of the right people. I've seen like plenty of towns that have these great marketing brochures that you'll find on their website. It's like, has anybody ever seen these? These things, like you actually need to get the information out and find out the venues where potential tenants would be looking and put that information in.
To that end, Monday will be my 30th anniversary at International Council of Shopping Centers. My first trip there, I was the SID director of Red Bank. So you SID directors can go to these places, and guess what? All those guys that were, 25 when we're going there, they're like CEOs of places now. So funny how that happened.
No,
30 years.
yeah. Well, revitalization takes time.